And now, Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
And the poor monster boy is stabbed, beat with a crowbar, electrocuted, hung on a meat hook, and squashed between giant gears. That's gotta hurt.
Ow!
He didn't really get to have his elephant man moment, did he? Where you feel sorry for him. I mean, you kind of feel sorry for him when his dad tells him never to call him father and all that. But then he just becomes Jason Voorhees for the rest of the flick. But that's the difference between Tobe Hooper and David Lynch, because Tobe Hooper doesn't do the touching moment. That's not Tobe's style, because he's a snaggletooth, white-haired, screechy, ugly drool monster who deserves to be cut in half at the waist, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and I want to remind you before we go on that next week we're showing Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, where Kirk feels old, and Ricardo Montalban gives him grief. And then we're going to follow that up with 2 episodes of the old Outer Limits show, the ones where Leonard Nimoy and William Shatner are basically auditioning for the Star Trek TV series. Okay, it is Easter now, so it's time to start the 1982 Tobe Hooper horror classic, Poltergeist, where, just like the J-Man, the dead are restless. And you know what? I hadn't watched this flick in a long time, and I personally don't think it's that scary anymore. I don't know what it is, but it just didn't do that much for me when I rewatched it. I may be wrong. We may get thousands of letters saying it's still terrifying. But the little girl is great, Heather O'Rourke. She's dead, right? She died after the second one, or the third one. So, and Jo Beth Williams, she's great as the mom trying to figure out how the ghost zombies are getting into the house. And, of course, everybody remembers Zelda Rubinstein as the psychic who comes in and acts like a spiritual dustbuster. In fact, everybody remembers her so well, they completely forget that Beatrice Straight is in the movie. Beatrice Straight is actually the head paranormal cleaner. Zelda is just somebody that comes in for the big last scene. But you ask 30 people what Beatrice Straight does in this movie, and they wouldn't know, would they? Anyhow, it's worth watching again just because it's one of those movies that any horror fan needs to be intimately familiar with. So let's take a look at those drive-in totals. We have 30 undead bodies, 1 dead bird, flying toys, killer tree, pork chop maggots, gooey face peeling, and the biggest nightmare of anybody living in California, roadie zombies in the pool clogging the filter. 3.5 stars. Check it out, and I'll be checking in with you during the movie, telling you everybody you're watching now in this movie is a dead person. Not everybody. Okay, roll it. Beatrice Straight, she's not dead, is she? She's old, but she's not dead. Zelda Rubinstein, she's not dead. With a teenage daughter, dead or alive, I think she's, yeah. They were dropping like flies on this picture. I get them mixed up, but I'll find out for you. Like to put you in the Easter mood. You know, I always just enjoy so much reading the viewer mail, especially the hate mail. Makes me feel humble as a person. Of course, I'm not as likely to read that on the air. So if you want me to read your mail on the air, try sucking up to me. That works better. And send copies to the bigwigs over at the network. Send your letters care of Monstervision at 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. Emails go to monstervision@turner.com or visit the Monstervision website. You can do it from there. But don't send the high sheriffs the negative comments because they're just not used to it like I am. They tend to overreact a little bit.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Well, I must commend the TNT High Sheriffs for restoring the footage they so ruthlessly cut out the last time we showed this flick, which was 2 Halloweens ago. They even put back that scene where Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams are smoking that Arkansas polio weed in bed while their children are in the next room. Yeah. And when was the last time you saw that on TNT? We have a strict no Arkansas polio weed policy here, so I'm impressed. You know, this was directed by Tobe Hooper, director of the greatest horror flick of all time, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was produced and co-written by Steven Spielberg. So you've got an oil and water thing going on here. Because evidently Big Steve kept messing with Tobe's direction, because you know that Tobe wouldn't make his movie that sweet and cutesy. Tobe would have those poltergeists eating faces off right from the get-go, right? But it's got that Spielbergian glow to it, doesn't it? kind of makes you puke, doesn't it? There was even a big controversy when the movie first came out in 1982 about who really directed it. And Spielberg finally took out a full-page ad in Variety telling everybody how much he loved Toby's direction. Right, Steve. Okay, back to the movie. This next segment has what I consider the scariest scene in the whole dang flick, so roll it. Go. Craig T. Nelson. He looks like he's probably done a little weed in his day. What do you think? I think so.
What would you do for a Monstervision t-shirt? Never mind, don't tell me. I've already seen some of your propositions. Well, I'll make it easy for you. Try to win one through our Monstervision caption contest. All you have to do is make the six-headed jury laugh. To try, just go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Go on, try it. And when you get your t-shirt, take a picture of yourself in it and send it to me. I'll put it where I put all my fan mail. And wouldn't you like to know where that is?
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
I still think the scariest scene in the movie is that one where the chairs are all set up on top of the table in a pyramid.
Yeah.
How did they do that? That's what I want to know, because the camera never leaves the mom. There is no cuts on that move, no edits. The camera moves away from that kitchen table maybe 2 seconds. Then it moves back, and the chairs are changed. Now, I don't know how they did that, because that's not even a special effect, really, but it's dang scary, you know? I don't know how they did it. Anyway, back to Jo Beth Williams in short shorts. I was going to say anyway, Jo Beth Williams. She looks pretty good for somebody who's supposed to be the mother of 3, doesn't she? You know, when my mother wore cutoffs, well, let's not go there. You shouldn't talk about your mother. But my mom is a good-looking woman, though. You know why? Sliced peaches and cottage cheese salad. Diet plate. Her favorite food.
Hi, I'm Rusty, the Monstervision mail girl. It's not an easy job, especially when Joe Bob says something really annoying, and I have to deliver 20 times as many letters from Monstervision viewers. But don't worry, I work out 5 times a week to make sure I can handle anything you want to send my way. Come visit me at Monstervision website, tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and I'll show you what I mean.
See Rusty deliver the Monstervision fan mail to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Poor little Heather O'Rourke lost inside the TV set.
Oh.
That's supposed to be one of the scariest scenes in the movie, where the tree comes through the window and grabs little Robbie. And then Industrial Light and Magic spent all these jillions of dollars making the toys fly around the room and all that stuff. But I still think the chairs being stacked up was way scarier than all those jillions of dollars they spent on the toys flying around the room. Okay, time to go get the paranormal researchers. Roll it. Do you realize that Spielberg kind of believes in this stuff?
Oh.
I mean, he would have to, wouldn't he? Oh, excuse me, I forgot. Do you realize that Toby Hooper believes in this stuff?
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
All right, in the scene we just saw, who was the only Academy Award winner? Beatrice Straight, the #1 paranormal researcher. She won the Academy Award for Network. She was William Holden's wife. But do you even remember she was in this picture? No, we're waiting for Zelda, aren't we? We want Zelda. We want Zelda. Zelda and Beatrice, they don't even agree. Because one says, stay away from the light, right? The other one says, go to the light. Go to the light. By the end of the movie, you're thinking, should she go to the light, avoid the light? Where the heck is she? Where's the light? Why is the wind blowing all the time? How'd she get inside the TV set? What is the light? Okay, continue, go. Honk if you like maggots. They're coming up. And I promised to give you that Poltergeist death report, so next commercial break, guaranteed. I'm just a font of wisdom tonight, aren't I?
Mom,
go to the movies.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Okay, Poltergeist is one of those flicks that's haunted by death. A few months after the movie came out, the older daughter, played by Dominique Dunn, was murdered by her live-in boyfriend. It was very sad. Dominique was the sister of Griffin Dunn, the actor, and the daughter of Dominic Dunn, who is probably one of the greatest journalists of the 20th century. He wrote this O.J. book I was looking forward to, but then a bunch of other people wrote books on O.J., so he made his into a novel. Big disappointment. So I never read an O.J. book. Not that I read the novel either. Anyway, then the little girl, Heather O'Rourke, she made both sequels, but before the second sequel even came out, she died at age 12. Intestinal obstruction was the official reason. Oliver Robbins, the little boy, he made the first sequel, but then he was never seen in Hollywood again, which means he didn't die. He just wised up and left town. And two other people from the second movie died, the Indian Will Sampson and the old creepy preacher Julian Beck. So kind of strange, right? Especially the little girl. All she did before this movie was a Barbie commercial, and Spielberg discovered her having lunch in the MGM commissary, and he said, "Would you come over here and stick your hair in front of this fan?" "Great, you're hired." So she was just 5 years old when he saw her. Now, that's another reason I think Spielberg didn't let Tobe Hooper direct the picture, because if Spielberg was not directing, what was he doing hanging around the commissary giving out jobs, you know? Anyhow, let's move on, because you know who's coming now. This movie finally starts picking up because Zelda appears. Here's the little midget woman now. Roll it. I shouldn't say midget woman. I say that too much. Here's the little dwarf babe now. You know, there just aren't that many things that are scary anymore, are there? Fortunately, one of them is our Monstervision website, which is where we put the viewer mail we're too chicken to actually put on TV. Did you people have mothers that write this stuff? Good grief. You can also check out the weekly Playmate, provided your taste in centerfolds runs to scaly mutants and saber-toothed vixens. Just head on over to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and when you get there, do me a favor, okay? Keep it in the ballpark area of borderline psychotic. Don't go into that other zone, all right? We got kids logging on. Some of them are already mutating.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Zelda Rubinstein single-handedly saves this movie, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
What was her line? A terrible presence is in there with her. You take a line like that, give it to anybody else to read, and it's corny. Put it in Zelda's weird voice, add in that strange little Dr. Ruth Westheimer body, you've got movie magic. I think Zelda was a little upset that she didn't get more movie offers after this performance. She did the sequels. She had already played a backstage munchkin in Under the Rainbow. She was the voice of Atrocia Frankenstone on the Flintstones, but it wasn't until Picket Fences that she finally got her first regular acting gig. Life is tough for a 4-foot-tall Swami woman, I'm telling you. Don't you just love her?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Rope Carol Ann. I think Zelda may be a local gal, don't you? She talks like us. Y'all are jamming my frequencies. Isn't that what she's... Y'all are jamming my frequencies. You ought to see if she's in Dallas. Have her come do the show sometime. The two of us will look like a pair, won't we? Talk about you. I must have 2.5 feet on her. We got booster chairs, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's not a problem. All right, if you're going to write into us here at Monstervision and share your gripes, your opinions, whatever, and you're a woman under 140 pounds, single, and you don't have any strong opinions about any of the most common vices that men have, then I want you to use my home address because it's quicker. So just send those letters. What? I cleared this. I can do this. I'm telling you, we had a 3-hour meeting about this. It's not an attempt to get Nookie on TV. Well, you don't have to use that word. Look. All right, look, I'm going to have to get back to you later. But meanwhile, just keep writing to us at 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, and emailing us at monstervision@turner.com. I like Superfly. What are you saying about Superfly? Why do you use that word? What's the implication there?
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Okay, which do you think was more disturbing? The big roaring head, the mom and the kid falling out of the ceiling covered in red slime, or Beatrice Straight having to stand there smiling while Joe Beth and Craig T. Nelson smooched?
Yeah.
That was weird, wasn't it? The two of them are laying a big wet one on each other. Zelda is there yelling instructions, and Beatrice Straight has to just stand in the doorway of the bedroom smiling and pretending that she's not really PO'd about being upstaged by a munchkin with a drawl. Okay, Zelda says the house is clean. This house is clean. But there's some serious special effects still to come, so let's roll. Now tell me one more time, though, before we do. Do you go to the light? Away from the light? Does the light make you dead or alive? Where is the light? What is the light? Is the light inside the TV? Why do we care about the light?
Joe Bob doesn't get nearly as much hate mail as people think he gets. I know because I'm Rusty, the Monstervision mail girl, and most of the letters I see are almost positive. I'm not counting the ones from TNT programming executives, because that's really not mail. Those are memos. Anyway, I do see your letters, and I do love every one of them. So come visit us at the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, or contact us the old-fashioned way at 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318. You can even email us at monstervision@turner.com. Try to avoid phrases like lame, no-talent donkeys behind. You can't imagine how Joe Bob overreacts to those.
See Rusty deliver the Monstervision fan mail to Joe Bob Briggs every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
Well, this little Poltergeist interlude allows me to point out that Craig T. Nelson and Jo Beth Williams, familiar to us all as the Freeling parents, both got their big breaks in this film. This was the first lead role for both of them, even though they'd both worked for years and were well known in Hollywood. And in fact, Craig T. Nelson was a comedy writer and performer. He used to be partnered with Barry Levinson, the director of Diner and Rain Man and many other fine pictures. But this took Craig to a whole new level, culminating finally in Coach. I don't get that, but that's what happened. Okay, now the thrilling conclusion of Poltergeist, directed by Tobe Hooper, we think. Although Steven Spielberg hung out on the set a lot and messed with Toby's head and probably influenced the zombie footage because Steven was way too proud of the fact that there's not very much gore in this movie. He said that publicly. Oh, we're proud of the fact no gore in this. Toby loves gore. All right, but we won't dwell on that now because it's almost over, so let's boogie.
Back to Joe Bob's Last Call and Poltergeist on TNT.
And so ends Poltergeist with the destruction of the lovely Cuesta Verde subdivision, better known as Irvine, California. That's where they filmed that. Actually, 90% of that flick was filmed inside Stage 27 on the lot at MGM in Culver City. But the subdivision they used was Irvine, one of those cities of the future where there aren't any trees, like being in one big Ben & Jerry's commercial your whole life. You know, if I can just say one more thing about this battle between Tobe Hooper, the director, and Steven Spielberg, the producer, you see it right there at the end. Zombies popping up out of the swimming pool, classic Tobe Hooper. Strange lights that make the house collapse, classic Steven Spielberg. They're real proud of that 12 seconds of film where the house explodes. They built a miniature version of the house that cost about $25,000 and was about 6 feet long, and then they filmed it at 360 frames a second as they blew that sucker up with shotguns. Whoa. That took 2 seconds, which they stretched out to 12 seconds in the movie when they slowed the film down to normal speed. Anyhow, I'll take a pop-up zombie any day. I'm sure that if they just would have left Toby alone, he would have had even grosser zombies. It would have even been better. And speaking of things that keep popping up, how many Star Trek movies have they made now? 36, 38, 47? Next week we have Star Trek #2, The Wrath of Khan, where Ricardo Montalban holds a grudge against Captain Kirk for 2.5 hours. And then we've got old Outer Limits episodes, 2 of them, the ones with William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy. So that's kind of the thematic bond we have next week. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that Jesus loves you, but everyone else thinks you're a jerk. Did you guys hear the one about this mangy-looking guy who goes into a bar and orders a drink? And the bartender says, "No way, you don't look like you can pay for that drink." And the guy says, "You're right, I don't have any money, but if I show you something that you hadn't seen before, will you give me a drink?" And the bartender says, "Well, only if what you show me isn't risque." So the guy says, "Deal." And he reaches into his coat pocket and he pulls out a hamster. Puts the hamster on the bar. The hamster runs down to the end of the bar, runs down a bar stool, runs across the room, runs up on the piano, jumps on the keyboard of the piano, and starts playing Gershwin songs. And the hamster's really good. And the bartender says, "You're right, I've never seen anything like that before." And he gives the guy a drink. So the guy downs the drink and he asks for another drink. The bartender says, "No, money or another miracle or else no drink." So the guy reaches into his coat again. He pulls out a frog. He puts the frog on the bar. The frog starts to sing. And he has this incredible voice. He has great pitch. He's really a fine singer. So this stranger down at the other end of the bar, he runs over to the guy and he offers him $300 for the frog. And the guy says, "Deal." He takes the $300, he gives the frog to the stranger, and the stranger runs out of the bar with the frog. And the bartender says to the guy, "You some kind of nut? You just sold a singing frog for $300. Must have been worth millions. You must be crazy." And the guy says, "No, the hamster's a ventriloquist." Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. This farmer lives alone in the Irish countryside with a pet dog, and he dotes on this dog. One day the dog dies, so the farmer goes down to the parish priest, and he says, "Father, my dog is dead. Could you please say a mass for my dog?" And the priest says, "No, we can't have services for an animal in the church. But there's a new denomination down the road, and you know, there's no telling what they might believe. Maybe they'll do something for your animal." So the farmer says, "Okay, I'll go down there right now. Do you think $50,000 is enough to donate for their services?" And the priest says, "Why didn't you tell me the dog was Catholic?"